set of options in the applications that you're creating. So kind of the question that really comes up is, what are the key criteria that you use to evaluate these? So if you were making a pitch to choose between, say, 3 of the most plausible candidates for a pen-based UI for a game, what are the objective criteria that you would write down to make the decision between them?
So we're in the Tablet PC room here at the University of Washington, and you're a student in this class, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and who are you?
I'm Omar.
And you're a computer science major here at the university. And how is this program from a student's point of view? We'll get your point of view first, then we'll hear the professor's point of view.
I think it's really interesting, and I have used it before in a classroom. It allows me to see what other students are also thinking other than myself, and I think that's really useful.
Explain what you're seeing on the screen here. During his lecture, he asks you questions to give your feedback, maybe 3 or 4 points, and you write those on your tablet here, and the professor can then choose from them and put them up on screen?
Yeah, I basically, I have the slide, the background slide that the professor posts, and then I can just write on it and click submit, and then the professor gets to choose which submissions to show.
And what was the class that was being taught this morning that I got a few minutes of?
Tablet PC capstone.
Okay, and that's to teach computer science majors how to make use of ink, or?
It's a project course to us students are split into groups, and then we create applications and projects that make use of tablet PCs and the pen input.
Great. Thanks. And who are you? You're the TA in the class?
My name is Valentin. Yes, I am the TA of the class.
Okay.
And I've used the system on both sides as an instructor for a class as well as a user, like today.
Yeah.
I constantly discover new ways of using it on both sides. And in fact, seeing how it works or does not work well on the user side allows me to improve the way that I teach on the instructor side and vice versa. So it's an interesting feedback loop for me.
And how does it change? How does it change the classroom from your point of view, since you've had both sides of the
Well, it
equation?
allows students equal participation. For one, not always the person who raises the hand is the one who gets to answer the question.
Yeah. Some people are very shy.
Some people are shy, whereas here they can, equally write their answer and have it displayed on the board. It is anonymous, so there is no disincentive to doing so. And it is, as we call the system, it is a classroom interaction system, so it is designed to promote engagement and interaction so that students can actually take an assignment and work on it as opposed to just sit and listen. And I think that's very important for learning, just the doing part of it.
Very cool. So let's come on up here. So who are you two guys?
So I'm Richard Anderson. I'm a professor in computer science at University of Washington.
Yeah.
And what you've been looking at is my project I've been working for about 4 years now on developing a classroom interaction system, integrating tablet PCs into the classroom, and really seeing how we can change education based on student devices and using these to bring student work into the classroom. So,
Right.
so it's about 4 years ago I spent a year at Microsoft Research in the Learning Sciences and Technology group and started work on this project, and I was able to bring it back to University of Washington and continue working on it. So the system is Classroom Presenter, and it's built on top of Conference XP, which is a research platform that's been developed at Microsoft Research.
And you're actually a Microsoft employee working
yeah.
on Conference XP.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I'm a research developer at Conference XP
And what's
in
your
the
name?
Conference XP team, Patrick Bristow.
Okay.
So I work on the Conference XP team with Richard Anderson from the Microsoft Research side, supporting and building a platform that helps enable some of this great technology.
Could you just give me a short description of what the student's machine looks like and then what your machine looks
Sure.
like?
So let's look over here. Here's an activity that I gave in class where I wanted people to explore different pen-based user interfaces. So I gave a problem of design an interface for tic-tac-toe. So here was the initial slide. Here's a student solution that was done. The student then sent this solution to me.
And how do they do that? Do they have
So it's just sending a button.
Okay, send all ink.
Sends
Okay.
it.
And so there's probably, what, a control on here that captures that ink and sends it over
Yes.
to your system?
Yes,
We can
that-
talk to you later about the technology, actually.
So then on my tablet, I've got my slides, and I also have all of the student slides. So what I can do is, as student solutions come in, I can preview each of the solutions in turn. That here's the one that this particular student sent. And
Now, at the beginning, what's over here? Is it just blank tiles?
so initially it starts out as an empty film strip.
Okay.
And the solutions just come in one at a time at the bottom of the film strip.
So
this allows
So if a person over there sends hers in, does it appear in any special order, or can you tell where the student is sitting or anything like that?
So all I can tell is just as each submission comes in, they are appended to the bottom of a list.
Okay.
So I get the order that they're coming in. I don't know which student it's coming from, which is actually quite interesting. That from the student's perspective, having it anonymous makes it much easier to submit work.
Yeah.
Since there's a classic thing of having students come to the whiteboard. It would be great, but as soon as you criticize students' work, they're never going to come up again.
Yeah.
So the idea of displaying anonymous work makes it possible to talk about work in a more objective manner, which is very important.
That's really interesting. What am I thinking? So you don't know this, so you don't use this as any part of the grading, right?
No.
Okay.
No. So I just rely on students having an incentive to participate. And we see that 80 or 90% of the students submit. So looking at this particular lecture that just finished, I see I've got 111 submissions from the students that came in over the 4 or 5 exercises. So that's a lot of students are participating with just the desire to do something, the desire to get feedback. That one of the things that obviously greatly increases participation is the chance to have their work displayed publicly.
Yeah.
That students
So you have a big screen here in front of the class as well.
So students are always asking, where's my solution? That it's been interesting that I've done this with 4th graders. I've done it with 24-year-olds. It's always the same. People, you have the same reaction. They want to have their stuff displayed.
Right.
That there's some really cool things that come up of people personalizing their work so that when it's displayed, they can tell that it's theirs without displaying exactly who they are.
Yeah.
So the type of cute thing that came up is that in one class I taught, I noticed that there was some kid that put a Canadian flag on his work. I had no idea who the Canadian in the class was, but he knew and his buddies knew. So whenever the solution with the Canadian flag came up, he was aware that it was his work. So these tagging things are really neat, and it's just showing how important it is for students to have this voice and being able to get their ideas directly into the class.
Are you getting anybody putting Go Seahawks this week?
Yeah, I could show you.
Some interesting. How long does it take to teach the class how to use this,
Uh,
or to get the class bought into it? The first day.
So it's instant. So the way I started class today is I gave this activity, which the activity was just asking them to draw a picture of something.
Yeah.
And most of the students drew tablet PCs of some sort.
Right.
Other students took the opportunity to predict the future.
Or at least their version
hopefully
therein.
the future.
I just came from Carnegie Mellon, and they have a completely different version of their future.
A key point is that deploying this technology is going to get different results in different places. So,
have you read the book that talks about the intelligence of crowds? I forget.
yes, the wisdom of crowds. Yes.
Yeah. Is that sort of the thing? Was that an what do you call it? Something that helped get your ideas going on this topic, or
it certainly fits with some of the thinking, and the broad thing of being able to collect a diversity of opinions and being able to use them creatively in class, and so having different ways of collecting information and being able to have a lot of the path of the course driven by student content as opposed to by professor content. So it's a style of teaching I like, where I cede a lot of control to make it, I'd say, more exciting, more spontaneous. I don't know really where it's going to go, but I still do maintain a lot of control in having my slide deck and having my set of activities, where I've got my points I want to draw from them. So, I'm still the conductor of the class, but I'm relying on kind of the orchestra for.
If somebody drew an inappropriate picture, you don't put that up on the screen, right?
I try not to.
Okay.
That sometimes
do you get inappropriate pictures?
That at the college level, it's not been too much of a problem.
Okay.
That some people will start doodling or something. That I actually once took this to a 4th grade class. I had a student who was teaching at a 4th grade class, and we did it, and I inadvertently put up the slide that said Jimmy smells. So it happens, but with the preview window and thinking on my feet. That I think it's also important to be doing this in a positive classroom atmosphere. I think it enhances the atmosphere to give students voices, give them participate, do an activity-based class where students are active and engaged. But it's also having a level of trust and responsibility where they're contributing things because they want the class to move forward. So back to your original point about how easy is it to learn, that I start class with just this one example of having them draw a picture, so I can first get them to use the controls and then show them how the interaction works, show a lot of their work. After that,
it's off to the races.
It's off to the races.
Okay.
That seriously, the most challenging part about using these particular tablets is having the students figure out how to get the pen out of the tablet.
Right.
So
it's a little bit tough on my tablet.
So that I would say 95% of the usability questions I get in the class is where's the pen, and so there's no problem with usability. People are using it. That the bigger usability, or the bigger issue I see in getting it out is the very big change in teaching style that goes on, and how the complete change it was for me to do this particular lecture, where I designed this lecture around having a set of activities for students to work on as opposed to my usual content. Because the usual way that a lot of us teach at universities is we teach a class as if we're giving a speech, that we pick out our points and we fill it in with content. When I'm teaching with this technology, that I've basically been driven to think of what are my learning goals for the class, number one. Number two, how do I have the students express them so that we can bring that into class and evaluate the learning goals? And then third, it's putting together the content between these. So it's completely flipped the order of preparation. And that's a dramatic change. And I tell this to the learning sciences people on campus. And I say, I'm a computer science professor. I've been here for 19 years. This is the first time I've looked at learning outcomes. And they're saying, hallelujah. He's got the religion. And It's not that I did it intentionally. It's
Yeah.
more the technology forces this path of designing around student engagement and doing things from the student side.
Yeah.
So it's not been a conscious choice. Oh, I have to follow appropriate methodology.
Right.
It's more been this really neat path of figuring out how to.
It
include
does take a
activities.
brave person in the front of the room to think about teaching differently, though, doesn't it? Because I've given a lot of speeches, and I've given speeches with what we call a back channel on behind me, where people in the audience can make fun of me or ask questions or or just post whatever they want. And a lot of speakers I talk to just are afraid of that. They don't like the uncertainty of being in front of people. First of all, most people don't like being in front of people, right? That's we'd rather pay our death or pay our taxes and die than come up here in front of the class and give a speech.
Right. For people who are going to be using this system, they've got hopefully over the threshold of being in front of people.
Yeah.
That there's a tremendous diversity of views on teaching, and some of my colleagues would never use this in their life because they want to be in control and they have a set way of doing things. Yeah. And then there's other people that really thrive on having a lot of different things happen and unexpected things happen. That
right.
It does require being able to think on your feet, and it does require sacrificing the amount of content actually covered to follow different paths and spend longer on different topics.
Right.
So there are stylistic differences, and things work differently for different people. So I think everybody agrees that the same technology is not going to work for everybody.
Right.
It's also going to work very, very differently for different people, and it also varies tremendously in the type of class that I'm teaching. That here I was teaching an HCI style class where it was very important to get students' ideas and opinions in class, and that's what's fun, is you're getting the students to say the points I want to make.
Yep.
Other classes, when I'm teaching an algorithms class, where it's really more about problem solving, the value of the system is getting the problems to the students and then getting the answers to be able to talk about technical details. So it's a different style.
It must be. Have you ever tried getting an artist or an art teacher to teach using this class?
No, right now we're making the push to get it used in other classes. That we're starting to use it in a forestry class here at University of Washington. I've talked to people in art, and so there's is a very big diversity in
right.
how it's used.
I imagine getting feedback from students is going to be more interesting on classes where there is no right answer or no one answer. Like HCI, you could make an interface with a triangle button or a square button or a round button, and so getting people's opinions is much more interesting, right? Where on some things, like if you ask 2 + 2, the answer should be always 4, right?
So it's used in different ways.
Right.
So in this opinion-based class, it's getting the ideas out to talk about them. In a circuit design class, a colleague of mine has used it very effectively because he wants to bring up students' work to be able to show lots of details. And it's just so much more valuable to be able to take the students' work to demonstrate details than the instructor's example.
Okay.
And a well-prepared instructor is going to be able to look at a student example and make a set of points from it, as well as from a prepared example.
Right.
So there are a lot of different ways.
Tell me a little bit about how the app was developed between Microsoft. You said you spent a year at Microsoft. Was the app your idea initially?
So I was on sabbatical at Microsoft working on a distance education project, and I was there just at the right time that I saw the tablet PC at PDC, and it was clearly such a big win. The idea basically came because my colleagues were very frustrated at teaching in distance learning classes. Yeah. And talking with them, that my colleagues basically said, PowerPoint sucks the life out of a class.
Yeah.
And drilling down
I'm all with that. I rarely use it during my presentations.
Drilling down on that, it was a lack of flexibility. So
yeah.
The first idea was the simple idea of let's support writing on PowerPoint. And so the tablet PC was perfect. That was the start of Classroom Presenter. And I've actually been quite surprised that a strong presentation interface has not come out of PowerPoint, that I had actually anticipated that these ideas would be subsumed by PowerPoint quite quickly. But
Yeah.
you know,
They move at a steady and predictable pace, don't they? Saying a little too slowly.
so
Although the new version said, I'm actually liking the new version,
Yeah.
but it's certainly nothing like this. How scalable is this? If you had 300 people around the world watching your presentation, could they all participate?
So we've not tried scaling to that large a number. So just continuing with kind of the history of the project,
Sure.
that the first idea was a presentation tool, which is what a lot of people really rely on it as. And then kind of the bigger educational step has been integrating it with student devices. And since we started doing this in a distributed classroom, we were doing networking from beginning, and then had the idea of, well, let's integrate student devices, and stumbled on this very simple mechanism of having students send in slides and displaying the slides publicly.
Right.
That has been kind of the basis for the pedagogy around it.
Okay.
So I spent the year at Microsoft working with with what became the Conference XP team on this broad distance education part, and I concentrated on the classroom presentation application, which I was able to take back to University of Washington and continue to develop on, just in the shared source model that the Microsoft group is working on.
Okay.
And since coming back, I've continued to build on the networking infrastructure that's provided by the Conference XP team.
Okay.
So the basic application, the Tablet PC UI, is stuff that I've written, and now my students have continued to build on. The networking infrastructure is coming from Microsoft Research.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
And scaling up to 300 users is something we've is found in the underpinnings of the technology infrastructure that we've built. Building on multicast, so using multicast over wireless, sort of ensures that we can scale much better than we would be able to do over unicast, and quite possibly able to scale up to hundreds of users in wireless. We haven't gotten around to testing it.
Yeah.
At this point, we've hit about 50, which we feel is a pretty worthy number, and we're pretty happy with it. But part of our long-term vision from our team is to be able to scale up to 100 or more users sitting in a lecture hall,
Right.
because this has a lot of potential to engage students in that model of teaching,
Yeah.
where typically they're even less engaged than they're going to be in a nice small classroom like this. You take 200 students in a lecture hall, and they're drinking their coffee just to hear the next word.
Yeah. No, that's true. Well, this is really, really fascinating. And
Great. Thanks
it
for
looks
coming.
like it's going to change the classroom quite dramatically, and how people learn together. And you're right. I always hated being in class because I would only have one person's ideas to compare with, and I wasn't able to give my ideas, and sometimes my ideas were pretty out there.
Yeah, so it's actually fun having students that do have out there ideas, and also having a lot of control in how the out there ideas
Yeah.
are expressed. That
Yeah.
I can balance the ideas that I've talked to students about the system, and the students have made the point that it's absolutely wonderful to have this system that gives everybody a voice and also balances the voices. That standard thing I'll do in class, regular classes, I ask questions to get answers, and it's always the same two kids in the front row
Yeah.
that answer. And so here I do get
And
answers.
everybody's kicking them in the back. Shut up.
Here I do get answers from everybody.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That one aspect of the system that I'm going to mention right now is just the reason that we're doing this on the tablet PC as opposed to a keyboard device. So some of the activities that are expressing answers just with writing, which could be done just with a keyboard device, but even for answers that just come in handwriting, the fact that it's personal makes a tremendous difference.
Yeah.
That seeing things in people's own words and in their own handwriting.
It makes it certainly warmer.
It does make it warmer. It shows that there's a lot of voices. Just the demonstration to the students that it's theirs. And then there are a tremendous number of activities that are far easier to be expressed in ink.
I can imagine in chemistry class talking about an oxygen molecule or a carbon molecule. How do you show what that molecule looks like with a keyboard. You can do it, yeah, but it's really hard. And here with a pen, you can just draw it.
And here's an example of a type of activity I like to do in class, where I've got a brainstorming activity. Here it was brainstorming on different user interfaces for tic-tac-toe. And by giving people free-form expression, it greatly expanded the range of how they could respond to me, and also made it very easy for me to evaluate and explain their solutions, and it made it very easy for me to share and show their solutions. So it wouldn't be possible to do this type of thing without being able to do it with sharing pen and ink.
Well, thank you very much. It's really killer.
Okay, great. Thanks.